guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something that I am exceptionally excited about because we have a model of a dinosaur I never in a million years would have one day expected to own. We have a Brontosaurus from Baby Secret of the Lost Legend. That is a film, if you are unfamiliar with it, it's a film from 1985 directed by Bill L. Norton. It is a very, very cool movie if you have not seen it. It actually stars William Catt, who I am a pretty big fan of, but basically the film is about people stumbling upon a family of Brontosaurus living in the Congo, and at the same time there is a group of people that decide to kidnap the baby of the family, and actually they end up killing one of the adults, which is just horrible. I remember always hating that scene when I was a kid because I just hate seeing one of the dinosaurs die. But again, it's a really, really cool movie, especially if you wait until the end and you get to watch the remaining adult go on a rampage. That's definitely a pretty fun part of that movie. But again, I've always been a massive fan of that movie. I grew up watching it, grew up almost obsessing over it, and to the point where when the Mattel Moosaurus had come out, I actually ended up doing a repaint of that dinosaur to sort of resemble Baby Secret of the Lost Legend, because I didn't think I'd ever have a chance to actually own a model of it, but luckily, Creature Preacher has come along and given us one, and not just one, but man, is this ever awesome. Like, it is so perfect, and he really just took this idea and completely knocked it out of the park. Like, you can't look at that head sculpt and tell me that isn't screaming Baby Secret of the Lost Legend right there. This is just so perfect. It really does look like a shrunken down version of the Brontosaurus that we see in the film. Creature Preacher, again, just as far as the actual screen accuracy goes, knocked it totally out of the park, but his paint job as well is fantastic. Like, he really did a great job of giving this some varying tones of color, which helped to add realism to it, and in fact, I would almost say it looks more real as far as the actual paint application than the dinosaur in the movie, which is impressive to say that Creature Preacher has done that good of a job as far as applying the, very slight differences in tones of color and everything. It just looks incredible here, and considering, again, what it is, I am almost kid at Christmas excited about the addition of this incredible Creature Preacher release into my collection. So let's jump to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Brontosaurus, you can see again that when it comes to the likeness and the overall design of the head sculpt of the Brontosaurus from the film, he really nailed it. Like, you can tell he has done his homework as far as this one goes. And, he always does. There's never a time when Creature Preacher goes into creating a model where he doesn't study the reference material intensively. And you can see again that he consistently does that with every release, but you can really tell that he's done that with this version of Baby. Again, just completely capturing the entire appearance and feel of this dinosaur so perfectly. And on top of that, again, you can see as we move through, there's quite a bit of variation of color. You can see lighter and darker tones of blacks and grays all through the course of the figure, but even right here in the face. And honestly, it would probably be a little bit too impossible for me to really pick up on each and every transition and each and every tone that he's applied, because there's just so much going on when it comes to the paintwork. And it's crazy to say that because Baby is basically just like, you look at it, it's kind of like a boring sort of grayish tone to most might look at it that way. But Creature Preacher has gone ahead and given it that sort of coloration while still making it very exciting, and again, giving it so much variation of color as you move through. Super impressive just how good he is at painting his models. On top of that, you can see a nice gloss coat there for the eye, so much so that the light is almost shining the detail away here. And he's also painted the eye out just like we see in the film as far as like the tones of color and the very adorable appearance that they give the Brontosaurus in the film. As you move back here, you can see the ear is sculpted out on the back of the head leading into the neck, and you can see if we get nice and close that the entire texturing and everything to the Brontosaurus also looks really quite nice. And not only does it look nice, but again, it looks just like it looks in the film. As you see here on the underside, you've got quite a bit of kind of wrinkling leading down the course of the throat here on the underside of our Brontosaurus. And you see more kind of creasing and stuff as you move down through the course of the neck of our Baby as well as more variation of color, again continuing to move down, which is also nice to see. Lots of really nice detail to be found all over this incredible model. But as you continue to move down, you lead into the legs. You can see again the legs look just like they do in the film, kind of like big and stocky, just like you see on the dinosaur in, again, Baby Secret of the Lost Legend. And as you move down, you can see all the detailing of the leg, all the really nice paintwork. Again, moving down into the wrists, and you can see that the toes are also nicely sculpted. The nails are painted with a light tone, really making them pop quite nicely in comparison to the darker majority of the body. As you move up, you can see some nice girth here in the stomach region, a few kind of like almost osteoderm-like scales and stuff poking up here and there. You've got the spinal column here running along the back of the dinosaur. You can definitely see the girth now when you look at it from up above. And again, here's a prime example of his really nice paintwork as we transition from the darker tones to the lighter tones and then back to the darker tones in quite possibly the smoothest way ever. Really nice naturalistic paintwork here on this figure. And then as you move down again to the ankle, you can see the foot sculpted here on the rear foot. You've got the nails again painted out with that lighter tone. All the toes sculpted very nicely. And then we lead back up here again, and we lead out into the tail, and you continue to have, again, that nice sculpting, that nice paintwork as we lead out toward the tip of the tail. Also, again, capturing the appearance to the tail pretty much perfectly as far as the way the dinosaur appears in the film. And you can also see a little bit of girth here on the underside, and you can also, again, take notice to the fact that Creature Preacher does not deliver laziness in his models. Like, you can see, again, that there's even color variation here on the underside of the dinosaur as you move through. Just lots of color variation everywhere you look on this incredible Creature Preacher release. And then as you move over here to the opposing side, again, you've got that super cute, adorable look here to the head sculpt of our baby. You can also see a nice gloss coat there on the eye. As you lead down here into the neck, again, you see the same style of sculpt, same style of detail. For the most part, I would say it's completely in a neutral position. You can see the legs are pretty much in the same positions on both sides. The neck is straight forward, the tail is pretty much straight out. So you're not really going to see a whole lot of difference over here any more so than what we had seen on the initial side. But man, is this ever just like the most incredible thing to actually have here in my hands, have here in my collection. If you are a fan of that film, if you're around my age and you're a fan of dinosaurs or have been for the majority of your life, you're really going to know this movie. You're going to be a big fan of it. I know I am. I absolutely love it and still watch it to this day. The moment that movie had come out on Blu-ray, I bought that immediately and watch it consistently. So having an actual model of Baby from Baby Secret of the Lost Legend, again, the Brontosaurus from that film, is one of the coolest feelings ever, and definitely one of the coolest additions to my collection ever. Another thing that's actually really quite exciting about this release is, on top of having a Baby Secret of the Lost Legend model, it has a pretty good size to it. Like, it really quite impressed me when I had pulled it out of the box, because I, for some reason, wasn't expecting it to be quite so large. But for a length, if I could get it to stay still and I could stop pressing the tape measure too close to it and moving it, you were looking at right around 15 3/4 inches, or just shy of that point, or around 40 centimeters, maybe slightly over. So definitely some pretty good length and height-wise, just shy of about 4.5 inches, or around 11.5 centimeters, somewhere in that vicinity. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Baby Secret of the Lost Legend Brontosaurus from Creature Preacher. And you can see, again, definitely has some pretty darn impressive size, like really quite easily dwarfing pretty much everything that we have here standing next to it, and probably one of the more sizable releases that I've had from Creature Preacher, which again makes this, I think, twice as cool as it already was. But for another comparison, we are bringing back the randoms, because I don't really have any other baby models at all, or even any models that I can think of off the top of my head that would even compare well with this, because it's so different than pretty much everything else that I have. But we'll bring again the randoms in, as we have the Collect Day Dimetrodon, Safari LTDU Tyrannus, and Schleich Diabloceratops standing next to our incredibly beautiful Baby Secret of the Lost Legend Brontosaurus. And then for a face-to-face comparison between Creature Preacher models, we have the Baby model next to his Crater Lake monster, and you can see a massive size difference between these two. So if you were one of the lucky ones that purchased one of those Crater Lake monsters, this is definitely a comparison that might interest you. Now, when it comes to large, long-necked models from Creature Preacher, you can see we have the plesiosaur from the land that time forgot next to our baby secret of the lost legend Brontosaurus. And you can see that the plesiosaur is probably one of, if not the largest Creature Preacher models I have, and the secret of the lost legend Brontosaurus here really holds its own as far as the size next to the plesiosaur, and in fact it may actually be slightly larger. Maybe it's just a little bit thicker in the body and maybe about the same length, I would say, or maybe even a little bit less. It's hard to really tell, and I don't think holding them next to each other would really add that up for us, but you can see that they do, again, have a pretty similar size, two really quite sizable models from Creature Preacher. So this brand new Creature Preacher baby secret of the lost legend Brontosaurus model is a dream come true, honestly. It really is, because it's a dinosaur that I've always dreamt of owning a model of because it was such a huge part of my childhood. It's something I grew up watching so much, it's ridiculous. In fact, I probably wore out the VHS tape that I had it recorded on back in the day when I was young. I watched it that much. And since I got into collecting dinosaurs, I have been wanting a model of this dinosaur forever. I would actually love to see a model of the adult as well. I don't know that Creature Preacher could pull that off as far as accurately sizing it next to this one, because that thing would be gigantic, but if they weren't quite to scale with each other, I would still love to see a model of the adult as well, because I think that would just be really neat. And maybe even like a shrunken down version of this to sit next to the model and have the entire family. That would be awesome. But again, he really took this and ran with it in the best way possible, because he took the dinosaur from the film and honestly created magic, because that's exactly what this model is. It is such a beautiful rendition of the Brontosaurus from Secret of the Lost Legend that it's quite ridiculous. It looks so good. It really does, again, capture the likeness of the Brontosaurus perfectly. The head sculpt looks perfect. The body, the way the body is detailed, the way that the skin looks and everything is exactly how it looks in the film. Like, he really did his homework when creating this, and again, didn't just create a version of this dinosaur, he created like the best possible version, like the ultimate version, I would say. And on top of the beautiful sculpt and pretty much picture perfect screen accuracy, the paint job is awesome as well. Again, there's just so much depth to his paint job, so many varying tones of color, just making it look so realistic and so lifelike. And like I said earlier, pretty much giving it a better paint job here than I think the dinosaur actually had in the movie. It just looks more lifelike as far as the varying tones of color and everything that Creature Preacher has applied to it. So if you are interested in picking one of these up, and I must say it is a massive recommendation from me, I will include a link in the description to the Etsy shop of Creature Preacher. And if there is one up there now, definitely grab it. If not, keep checking back, and of course follow Creature Preacher on his social media accounts, which I will include in the description, so you can acquire one when he does have some up on his shop, because again, his stuff sells and then he, reposts stuff, and that's pretty much how an artist like this would work. So if it's not there now, keep checking back, and it should be back soon. Definitely, again, a massive, massive recommendation from me. And you can also check Creature Preacher out at quite a few different conventions coming up. So always keep your eye out for him whenever you are attending a convention where you might find these kind of models. But one way or another, again, I really recommend this, an absolutely amazing model. So make sure you grab this, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.